Good evening, everybody. Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to Morning Coffees with James. I know you're right now thinking, why are you not wearing your robe? Why are you wearing a wife beater? Why do you have a gun? Why is there a gun on the wall? Well, this is a new angle now, and by the way, that's an airsoft rifle, and I have a permit. Furthermore, I would just want to address something else, is that I want to talk about something Okay, Kim. I want to talk about that I've always wanted to talk about. Considering I'm talking about the Batman movies, I might as well talk about Batman Forever. I just recently finished watching, and I will say this: Joel Schumacher did nothing wrong, and also hashtag release the Schumacher cut. I'll talk about that in just a moment. Now, for those who don't know, Batman Forever is the third installment of Batman, and for those who don't know, the reason why they changed ships and all that stuff and changed directors and tones, a little bit the tone had changed slightly a bit. It was still dark and gruesome. It was still over the top. It was still comic book. This pop culture opera that I'm going to address to you called Batman Forever is one of the best Batman movies ever made. Period. I know people out there want to claim that Batman, the first Tim Burton movie, Batman was good, and yes, it is one of the best. So is Batman Returns. But Batman Forever gets shit upon because of Joel Schumacher's Batman and Robin. And I'm not going to say, the studio's Batman and Robin. I'm not going to say Joel Schumacher did anything. He did nothing wrong. He directed a movie that the studio wanted him to direct, not that he wanted to direct. And I'll explain to you when I talk about Batman and Robin. But I want to talk about Batman Forever, one of the best underrated Batman movies ever made, which honestly is something I'll talk about that's missing in the modern comic book movies. So this movie, stars, Val Kilmer as a replacement to Michael Keaton as Batman. It has Nicole Kidman as Chase Meridian, yet another character created for the movie. Harvey Dent, played by Tommy Lee Jones, which is the weakest part of this movie. He plays a terrible Two-Face. And God sent Jim Carrey, who plays Edward Nygma, aka the Riddler, which I'll talk about him, and Chris O'Donnell as Robin, as Dick Grayson Robin, who doesn't get enough credit for being a good Robin. People talk about that he was a whiny, edgy edgelord. You haven't seen Titans. So let's talk about Batman and Robin, or as I like to call it, how DC really screwed the poop. Well, excuse me. I keep wanting to shit on this, but I know the Melvin movie. Well, let's just say how DC redirected Batman. Now, when I was a kid, growing up in the 90s, I loved Batman Returns. I loved it. It was the perfect Batman movie because it was dark, it was sinister, it was macabre. Like I said before in the other review, it was a Batman movie. It was simply a Batman story. It's supposed to be dark. It's supposed to be menacing. It's supposed to be bittersweet and sad. Not all of them are going to be triumphant like the first movie was. Then somehow in 1994, I get a trailer for Batman and Robin, and Batman Forever. I keep mixing them up. Batman Forever. And honestly, I was excited to see this new movie coming out, and I was like, oh my god, Batman Forever. And it was cool because Jim Carrey was in. I was like, yeah, Jim Carrey. Tommy Lee Jones. Tommy Lee, the future. I was a movie kid when I was a kid. Val Kilmer, which I thought was a good replacement for Batman, aka Bruce Wayne. Nicole Kidman being hot as hell as always. The original Alfred was back. He's the best Alfred, let's be honest. I gotta look up that actor's name, but not right now. You had, I'm trying to think who else. Tommy Lee Jones, Val Kilmer, Jim Carrey as the Riddler, who, goddamn, sells that. He is just fun as she's having a blast playing this guy. And I like the story of this. So basically, it's Batman. It starts out like a typical day for Batman. He's got to stop Two-Face from causing crime, robbing a bank and stuff like that. And Two-Face blames him for not saving him blames him for his disfiguration from crime boss Marone, and understandable. It's like fucking Cape Crusader couldn't save my ass. but it is kind of silly and stupid how they don't like how your correlation to that. It's like, I don't care. It's like once you go mad, you go mad. But there's another subplot that Two-Face is just the heavy of that movie, and the weakest part of that movie because he's not the Two-Face from the cartoons and the comics where he was a dark, sinister, like, you know, playing judge, jury, and executioner, being a crime boss himself who just decided everybody's fate in the flip of a coin. That's what sold me about Two-Face, and especially in the animated series. I mean, he was kind of a dark, serious character. Harvey, tails you win, heads you win, tails you lose. But what sells this movie is Jim Carrey's sanctioned buffoonery, and that's what sells it as the Riddler. Now, the movie opens up with Jim Carrey's Riddler, who's like playing that nerdy type character who's like, oh, hi there, Mr. Wayne, and then he turns into this badass supervillain, which you've seen multiple times. It started off with Selena Kyle. It was improved with Jim Carrey. It was done by Uma Thurman. Guy Ritchie did it in not Guy Ritchie. Who's the guy? Prometheus guy, Guy Gardner, whatever his name is. Guy Pearce as the Mandarin from Iron Man 3. I'm trying to think who else. And you have Max Dillon from The Amazing Spider-Man, all playing that nerdy guy who turns into a bad super. Like, can he just start off just being kind of like a typical, like, I'm kind of a dork, but you can tell there's some sinister rhythm with it. Is it isms with it? Then you got Joel Schumacher's, directing in that. But I like the fact that you could tell that he's a bit of a nut job, and the fact that he's obsessed with Bruce Wayne because he wants to be like him. He's, came up with this device that could, like, cause brain manipulations, but also kind of like 3D technology. He was making 3D technology before it was cool. And he ends up, Mr. Wayne doesn't approve of it, and he kind of gets pissed off at them. And so he develops, he finds out that his brainwave technology through, kidnapping his boss and forcing him as a guinea pig, finds out that it it increases his brainwaves and makes him a lot smarter, which I honestly think it was a great Riddler, like, scheme. Like, that's something the Riddler would do. And so, as the story goes on, Batman's still conflicted between him and himself, and, meeting Chase Meridian, who's falling in love with both Bruce, who really loves Batman, but is not so sure about Bruce Wayne, so there's that duality there too. And I want to get into the direction of how he shoots those scenes, but so on and so forth. The story goes with Two-Face killing Robin's family, and so on and so forth. He wants revenge, which, honestly, one of the best Dick Graysons we've had in a long time, and nobody ever gives him credit. Let's give Chris O'Donnell credit. Come on, guys, seriously. And then you have, then the story unfolds that the Riddler is using Two-Face to gain capital to make the box, which makes me hilarious because it kind of reminds me of the Xbox a little bit, and how it's in every home, and that it drains your brain, and it's green, and oh god, they just copied Batman and Robin. Batman Forever. I keep thinking Batman Forever. Forgive me. But I want to talk about something more important about this film, and I want people to know this. Joel Schumacher did nothing wrong. His direction in that movie is beautiful. The cinematography is absolutely beautiful. Like, every time they do, like, a night shot of Gotham City, it's dark, it's Dutch angles, it's gritty. It's just much more, like, sinister looking, and honestly, much more adult. Like, this was a perfect movie for the mid-90s. The perfect movie. It's like, Batman Returns was perfect for the late 90s, and Batman Forever, the first Batman movie, definitely sent off and got us into the new decade with Batman Returns. With Batman Returns. God damn it, just call it 1, 2, 3. Alright. So Batman 1, again, was the best intro to the 90s. Batman Returns was the 90s, early 90s movie, and Batman Forever was the perfect mid-90s movie. And his cinematography in that movie was great too. Every time Gotham City's just it looks pretty from the outside, but when you get into it, it's dark, gritty. It's that Joel Schumacher, Flatliners kind of surreal world. How he does those movies, like how he does the surreal world, and how he does like, you know, surrealism in that is kind of beautiful in the sense. When he's doing like the day shots, but when he's doing like the shots during like the day or like at Wayne Manor, it's very toned down, and nobody ever talks about this movie. It's toned down. It's like, you know, it's less fantasticals. There's less Dutch angles. It feels like a legit movie. You know, like every time it's in the day, or you know, Chase Meridian is there, or he's talking with Chase, and it's just like a simple, quiet scene. It's very much subtly played. You know, every time like the villains, or like it's the more outlandish scenes, it's Dutch angles, it's over the top. And I gotta admit, I miss shit like that. I miss movies that are just entertaining like that. You know, now everything's like dark, gritty, must be realistic, and must be, you know, grounded, super duper grounded, and it's like, okay, first of all, one thing that's missing from modern comic book movies, and not just comic book movies, not just any movie, but most movies nowadays that are supposed to be fun and entertaining, sexuality, sensuality. I mean, the first Batman movie had it a little bit. The second Batman movie definitely had it. Meow. Like Catwoman, anybody? Michelle Pfeiffer in that skin-tight outfit, which she almost passed out a couple of times because they had a vacuum sealer in there. My God. And the sexuality in this movie oozes. I mean, not just with the bat butt, him just like suiting up, but with, you know, again, with you know, Chase Meridian when he's meeting her at midnight, and she's sleeping naked, and she gets the towel on and stuff like that, and it's like, oh, that's some. I remember being a kid and being like, she's so beautiful. Oh, I love this sensuality, man. It's an important thing. There's nothing like that. There's no romance. There's no love. There's no, you know, I wouldn't say sexualizing. I mean sexual. There's a word I'm looking for, but it's like the sensuality, I think, is much more important to say. The idea that these two falling in love, the idea that she's being seduced by the man in the mask, and he's being seduced by the woman who wants to expose him, even though she's a little bit exposed herself. It sells. And I mean, hell, even Drew Barrymore and the other girl, I forget the other girl's name, but Sugar and Spice, which honestly, there's a funny scene in this entire movie. We get to Two-Face's lair, and he has two girls with him. I don't want to call them hench girls, but they're the two. I don't want to say bitches either. His squeezes. There's a scene where he's like, you know, Batman's refusal to die is driving us insane, and he's, you know, they're calming him down. They tell him what they're making, and there's a scene where they're panning out, and you can see the Riddler just standing there, waiting to get on cue. I like to think that he was just waiting there the entire time, but we never see him because we were distracted by Drew Barrymore in white lace lingerie talking about poached salmon and itty bitty quail eggs and a nice lemon souffle. And then we get distracted by spices, you know, charbroiled pork and hard liquor. I forget what it was, but and that scene too, god damn it, I love him as the Riddler. Jim Carrey as the Riddler is fucking awesome. Let's be honest, folks, he is the goddamn Riddler. And I'm gonna have to say that too, Val Kilmer's the most underrated Batman we've ever had. We respect, you know, Michael Keaton, we have major respect for Adam West. We dislike George Clooney, who's played a good Bruce Wayne. I'm actually in the start of watching Batman and Robin, and I'm gonna just say, you could tell who made which movie. Joel Schumacher made the Batman Forever, but the studio made Batman and Robin. They just told Schumacher what to do. Because if you think about it, I want to get into this too before I get into like that. I want to talk about the Schumacher discussion. Joel Schumacher didn't do anything wrong. The studio absolutely fucked up. They should have stuck away from their pies, stick with this tone for the next movie, and that's what you could have been that's what it could have been, a good Batman movie. Like a good sequel to that, like just let Joel Schumacher do whatever he wanted. Give him some direction, be like, hey, we're gonna let you have some freedom, but try not to do what, Burton did and go over the top. Just keep it balanced. I'm okay with that. Which, by the way, not bothered by Batman Returns. I love it. Batman Returns is a good Batman movie. Fight me. And Batman Forever is a good Batman movie too. And also, there's deleted scenes out there too. I want to talk about this real quick before I go into my topic about Joel Schumacher. There are deleted scenes out there that were left on the cutting room floor that made this Batman movie much better than it should have been. Like, it is a better these deleted scenes could have made this movie 10 times better than what we got in theaters. And I believe it. I've seen these movies. I've seen these clips. I mean, the intro is a little bit darker. The ending's different because it's more reminiscent of the first movie where Batman's standing on, the skyscraper looking at the signal. I want that. Like, why release the Snyder Cut? Like, god damn it, DC. Why are you so mentally fucking stupid? Not just DC, Warner Brothers. Why are you so fucking stupid? Like, you fucked up with Superman. You fucked up with Batman. You're trying to be like Marvel. But honestly, you made some good choices too. You made some good movies too along the way. You released the Snyder Cut. We want you to just restore the Snyderverse, okay? Get rid of goddamn Ezra Miller. He's an asshole. Get somebody else to replace him. Make another Superman movie with Henry Cavill. Make a Batman movie with Ben Affleck. Make a good Justice League movie. Like, come on, guys. And before you say, well, Zack Snyder, I have to agree, Zack Snyder could have needed a little help. Maybe from guys like, I don't know, Kevin Smith, Max Landis, Grant Morrison, Bruce Timm, people who understood this and did it better. Not to say Joel Schumacher, Zack Snyder's a bad filmmaker. Zack Snyder kind of reminds me of a comic book artist. Has some crazy ideas, but needs a writer to kind of focus it. Like Image Comics guys. Like, they have some crazy ideas, and they needed to, and granted, the artist became, the rock star, and I'm glad they did. Zack Snyder is kind of like that, but he needs a writer to say, yo, Batman doesn't do this. He doesn't kill. Superman will not kill either. That was another thing that annoyed me. Superman killing. No, Superman has the ability not to kill. He is a passive superhero, but when push comes to fucking shove, he will knock your ass out. And then you have, which is funny because 20th Century Fox did the same thing. And it's odd because Marvel starts out great, and then they get greater, and then they absolutely fuck it up in the third movie. And it's all because I feel like either A, studio interference, B, and it's always, actually I think it's always studio interference because they feel like they can improve on it. I feel like these guys in suits, I'm talking to you, Tom Rothman, or there's any suits whatsoever, just come in and are just like, well, we can make improvements on it and make more money. It's like, no. Whatever this guy was doing beforehand, again, I'll use X-Men as an example. Bryan Singer was seduced away by making a Superman movie. And who wouldn't want to make a Superman movie? But if he had integrity, he'd be like, no, I'm sticking with my X-Men. Mutants first. Man of Steel later. And I'm gonna be honest too, I find it kind of funny that the X-Men movies and the Batman and Superman movies have the same kind of parallels. But I will say this though. Forever is still one of my favorites, and I also feel like it's the most underrated of the Batman movies. I feel like it is, and I'm not alone on this. And I want DC and I want more Warner Brothers just to release this, the Schumacher cut, because we owe it to Joel Schumacher. The man apologized for Batman and Robin. Let's forgive him on that. But I will talk about that in another video about the legacy of Joel Schumacher. So. Take care, love you, bye-bye, and remember to stay awesome. Peace.